Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll inshallah finish the topic of spot speed. What we have done until now, we said spot speeds are taken over a segment, over a short segment or a point, and they are done in free flow conditions, and they are um arranged in speed groups. We call them the frequency distribution groups. Then we plotted them using the graphs, the frequency and the cumulative frequency distribution graphs. Then we calculated their statistics, mean, median, mode, pace, percentage of vehicles in pace, standard deviation, and the percentiles. Then after that, we looked at the concept of normal distribution. So from normal distribution, we can get the confidence interval for the speeds, and we can also know how many samples we should collect. So we looked at some examples of calculating sample sizes, and we also looked at the example of doing before and after study in which you apply the z-test, okay, to find out if we have a significant difference in the mean values of the before and after sample. So today we will do something where we about the normal distribution concept again. So initially we said spot speed follows normal distribution by looking at the graph. Okay, that if the graph is bell shaped, it's a symmetric graph. So we said it's a normal distribution. Okay, now you can see here. First of all, the data is real-time data, right? It's coming from the real field, the field. So it is not possible that you have a smooth symmetric curve for this data. It is not possible. Okay, whatever you try. Okay, whatever you want to do, the data will not be completely symmetric. It's not possible. Okay, so in that case, you cannot judge from the shape of the curve visually that we have a symmetric curve or a bell-shaped curve or not. Okay, even in this curve, even in this case, you see, at least to me, the left-hand side of the curve looks more steep as compared to the right-hand side, right? And again, keep one thing in mind that we are plotting the best fit curve. So we are not just simply joining the points. We are making our own shape. We are trying to make a smooth curve. So you are doing this, and then you are trying to judge it visually, whether it is a symmetric or a bell-shaped curve or not. So it's quite difficult to judge it on the basis of the curve. It is very difficult to say it's a symmetric or bell-shaped curve. So we came up with a mathematical approach, which is known as a chi-square test, to check if the data follows normal distribution or not. Okay. So this is what we call as the chi-square test, and you can see the chi-square value here. Some people call it chi-square. Okay, I don't call it chi-square because I love to drink chai. Okay, and I don't want to mess it up for me. Okay, to say anything else is a chai, then I will not feel good. Okay, so I will appreciate if all of you also said it's chi-square, not chai-square. Okay, in fact I have chai right in my hand right now. So don't call it chi-square, we call it chi-square. Okay, now you can see the chi-square equation here. We need two things, n and f. N and f. Summation is done for each speed group. Summation is done for each speed group. Now what is n here? We have already used n. What was n for each speed group? In the speed group table, what was small n? For each group, it was what?
Number of vehicles.
Number of vehicles in each group. Okay, so n is that. So that this is coming from the field, right? This is coming from the data. So when you collect the data from the field, you know how many vehicles are in each speed group. So n is the value you have. So we call it observed frequency. Okay, we call it observed frequency. Then f is the theoretical or assumed frequency if the data is following normal distribution. So n is the frequency you have, and f is the frequency you should have if the data is following normal distribution. Okay, so n is n is observed frequency, and f is assumed or theoretical frequency if the data follows normal distribution. So for each speed group, we must have n and f. Now n values we already have n values for each speed group because they are from the field. Okay, how do we calculate the F values for each speed group? For that, we need some calculation. And before we do some calculation, we need to rearrange the speed data as well. The speed data which I showed you, let me show the first table to you. This is the data which we were working on. Okay, so this is the initial arrangement of the data. In the initial arrangement, you can see we are going in an ascending order. So minimum values at the top, maximum at the bottom. Okay, and then you can see first group had 0 values, the last group had 0 values, and we said we put these extra groups so that we can make sure the curve start and ends at the 0 values. Okay, the frequency distribution curve, we want to start and end at the 0 value, so we have one extra group at the start, one extra group at the end with 0 value. So this is the initial arrangement of the speed data. For calculating the F values, I will change it. Okay, what are the changes? 3 changes. I will make 3 changes. The arrangement. Okay, this is no calculation here. I'm just telling you the arrangement of the data. Okay, there are 3 differences in rearranging the data. Okay, up till now I'm not talking about any calculation. First rearrangement, the values in descending order, the speed values in descending order. So the highest speed group goes at the top, the lowest goes at the bottom. Highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. Okay, you can see it here. Okay, and obviously the observations will be for each group. Then the 0 groups which I had, the extra 0 groups which I had at the start and at the bottom, they are eliminated. So you can see the first group has a value and the last group also has a value, because any group which had 0 values had already been eliminated. Okay, any group at the start and at the end which had 0 values have been eliminated. So second change. First change, descending order. Second change, eliminate the extra 0 groups at the start and at the end. Third arrangement, is you can see the first group upper limit is infinity, the last group lower limit is minus infinity. Okay, the first group upper limit is infinity, last group minus lower limit is minus infinity. So this is why I eliminated the first and the last group, because any value which is more than 64 is already covered in the first group. It is going up to infinity, right? 64 to infinity. So I don't need any groups before over 64. And same thing with the last group as well, 34 to minus infinity. So any value below 34 is already taken care of, is already included in this minus infinity. Okay, so these are the 3 arrangements. Okay, descending order, eliminate the first and the last 0 groups. The 0 mean 0 frequency. Okay, first and the last 0 frequency groups, and the upper limit first group infinity, lower limit last group minus infinity. Okay, and the n values are same as we had in the initial data. Then for each group, calculate the z value. For each group, calculate the z value. For the z value, we have this equation. This is the equation for calculating z value. So x will be the upper limit of each group. X will be the upper limit of each group. Mu is the mean of the data set. We already calculated, because this is the data set we have been using for so many classes now. And sigma is the standard deviation, which is again what we have already calculated. Okay, so I think mu mean was 48.2 and sigma is 6.14. Okay, as per what I remember. Okay, you can see the exact value in the notebook. Okay, so for example, if you come to the first group has an upper limit of infinity. Okay, so anything plus, minus, or multiply, divide infinity is infinity. So for the first group, you don't have to worry. For the first group, you don't have to do any calculation. It will remain infinity. Okay, because infinity minus plus multiply divide doesn't make any difference. Okay, it will remain infinity. I'll start the calculation from the second group. Second group, upper limit 64. Upper limit is 64. So how do I calculate? 64 minus, again I'm just trying to remember. I think the mean was 48.2 and the standard deviation is 6.14. Okay, you want to see the exact value, go to the notebook, previous lectures, and you will find the exact values. So 64 minus 48.2 mean upon 6.14 standard deviation for this data set will give you this 2.57. Okay, for the next group, Obviously, mean and standard deviation will not change. You will only change this value. So instead of 64, it will be 62, then 60, then 58, and so on. Okay. So for each case, you will just change the upper limit and you will calculate the z value for each group. Okay. Then we have a z table. So you take the cumulative probability of the z value from the table. For each value which you have just calculated, take the cumulative probability from the z table. Okay. The first value is infinity. You go to the z table. It's not here. What should I do? I explained it to you last time as well. The maximum value is 3.49 in the table, and infinity is obviously more than 3.49. So what should be the probability here?
1.
Yes, 1. Any value which is more than the values given in the table, the cumulative probability is 1, because this is the maximum probability you can have. So the table already has a maximum probability of 0.9998. So any value which is more than that has a probability of 1. Okay, so infinity is obviously more than anything. So infinity will always have a cumulative probability of 1. The next value in the table, next value was 2.57. So just to refresh your memories, 2.5 from the first column, you come to this row. 0.07 from the first row, you come to this column. Okay, so the cumulative probability is 0.9949. Okay, this is how you read the z table. You come here. Okay, so 2.57, you can see 0.9949. Same thing for 2.25 and so on. Now you can see, obviously you are doing upper limit minus mean, so mean is somewhere in the middle, right? So when you go to the bottom groups, you will start having negative values. Some of the z values will be negative. Now, how to find out the cumulative probability of a negative z value? Okay, you can do two things. Okay, first of all, there's a full z table as well. This one is a half z table, which is given in the traffic book. Okay, this is only from 0 onwards. This table is only from 0 onwards. Full z table has negative numbers as well, so it goes above 0 as well as below 0. Okay, so find out that table from somewhere. Obviously, if you are doing it for just for your calculation's sake, then you have it online, you have it in statistics books and so on and so forth. So it's not something secret, but it's not given in the book, in the traffic book. So I just want to explain how you can calculate the probability of a negative z number. Okay, the probability, since the graph is symmetric, the normal distribution graph, and z is a standard normal distribution graph, so it also has a symmetric curve. In a symmetric curve, the probabilities of negative and positive numbers are complementary to each other. In a symmetric or a normal distribution curve, probabilities of negative and positive numbers are complementary to each other. What does it mean? So if I want the probability of a negative z number, this is how they write it. Okay, this is the notation for writing the z value. So if I want the probability of a negative z number minus z, then I will take 1 minus the probability of the same number positive. Okay, the same number as positive. So use this table, the same table, calculate or find out the probability of the z value without the negative sign, and then you do 1 minus that probability to get the probability of the negative z number. Okay, so first, for example, the first negative number in the chi-square table is minus 0.03. Okay, so you find out the probability of plus 0.03, which is this one, 0.5120. Okay, so the probability of minus 0.03 will be 1 minus 0.5120. Okay, what is 0.5120? The probability of 0.03. Okay, so you do 1 minus that, you will get probability of minus 0.03. Okay, simple. So if you come to this table, okay, if you want the probability of, so you do 1 minus 0.5120, you get 0.4880, 0.4880. Okay, you want the probability for 0.36 minus 0.36, find out the probability of 0.36, then you do 1 minus that probability. Okay, 1 minus the probability, not the value, not the z value, 1 minus the probability. Okay, so this is how you calculate the cumulative probabilities. Okay, so now we have the cumulative probability for each group. I want the probability of each group now. I have the cumulative probabilities. I want the probability of each group. So if you have, for example, like we did earlier, we had frequencies in each group and we wanted to calculate cumulative frequencies. So we added them, right? We added them. Now I have cumulative and I want it for each group. So I should do what? From cumulative, I want to calculate each group, then I should do what?
Minus.
Yeah, you subtract them. Okay, so you take two successive numbers, you take the difference. This will be the probability of that group. Okay, so you do this minus this, it will give you this one. You do this minus this, it will give you this one, the second group. You do this minus this, it will give you for the third group. And obviously, when you come here at this point, there's nothing, no value after this one. So this value will be just repeated. The last value will be just repeated. Okay, because there's nothing to take the difference with, right? So this is how you calculate the probability in each group. Then you take this number, the probability of each group, and multiply with the total number of values. Total number of values. Okay, again, we already know it from the field. You can see they are doing it here just to check the summation. That is, the summation is 368. But actually, the total number of values will come from here, right? From the n. So total n was 368, capital N. We already know it. We calculated the mean standard deviation using n values, right? Capital N. So 368. So 0.051 multiplied by 368 will give you 1.8768. Okay, and 0.00071 multiplied by this number will give you this much, and so on. Okay, so each probability will be multiplied by the total number of values to get the f value. Now you have reached the f value. So if you go to the chi-square equation, I needed n and I needed f. So I have both now. N was already there from the field, and f I just calculated by multiplying the probability of each group with the total number. Okay, so these are the f values. Now you should be able to perform the chi-square test right now. And after this step, after calculating the f values, you should be able to calculate the chi-square. Okay, because n and f both are there, and this is what we require for the chi-square. But before you go for the calculation of chi-square, you must check one thing. You need to check that no f value is below 5. No f value is below 5. If the f value is below 5, then you merge it with the next group or the immediate group. If any f value is below 5, then you merge it with the next group or any immediate group. For example, you see the first f value is below 5. Okay, so I merge it with the next one. So you merge 1.8 with 2.6, you will get 4 point something. Still, even after merging, it is less than 5. So you merge it with the third one then. Okay, so you will keep on merging it until the values become at least 5. The merged value becomes at least 5. Okay, so since you are merging the groups, so you have to merge the n values as well. So you see, I have to merge the first 3 groups to get the final value more than 5, and this is the final value for f. Okay, and for the same 3 groups, I will merge their n values as well. So this is 2 and 3 and 7. So you merge them together, you get 12. Okay, so this is a merged n value. Then after this, after the third group, here onwards, you can see all values are more than 5, except again the last 2 values. Okay, so you come here, you merge them together. Now their answer is more than 5, so I don't need to merge it anymore. So the final f value, the merged one for the last 2 groups is this one, and I had to merge the n values as well. So I merged this plus this, and I got 10. Okay, so now you will calculate the chi-square. Okay, so before calculating the chi-square, after calculation of f, you have to perform this check. that if f value is less than 5, you merge it with the next group or any immediate group. Okay. So for calculating the chi-square of each group, I will do this. See here, n minus f square upon f. So n is 12. Okay. F is 10.08. Okay. You can take the whole number. Okay. You can take the complete number. Okay. Without any rounding off. You do the square. Divide by 10.08. I'm just trying to explain it. Okay. Otherwise, you take the complete number with all the decimal places. Okay. This will give you 3.3644. Okay. Then for the second one, you will do 10 minus 10.8192 square divided by 10.8192. Okay. So for you will do this for each group. You will have the chi-square value for each group, and then you do the summation of all values. Okay. So this is a summation of all chi-square value. This is the value you want for the check. This is the value you want. Okay, so 11.6669 is my final or full chi-square value. You can say it like this. This is a final or full chi-square value. Now, what should I do with this value? Like the z table, I have a chi-square table as well. Like we have a z table, we have a chi-square table as well. And this is the chi-square table. Okay. Now, in this table, the values which you see in the table are basically chi-square values. The values in the table are chi-square values. And as you know, we are trying to find out the cumulative probability. Okay. The cumulative probability is given in the top row now. So the probability is at the top row and the chi-square values are in the table. Okay. Then you see the first column stands for DF. DF means degrees of freedom. DF stands for degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom. Freedom. Degrees of freedom means what? How much variation is caused because of speed groups in your data? How much variation is caused because of speed groups in your data? This is what we call as degrees of freedom. Okay, DF. Degrees of freedom are always number of speed groups minus 3. Number of speed groups minus 3. Which speed groups? The ones which we have now after merging. The ones which we have now after merging. So how many speed groups we have now? How many values we have in these columns after merging? Can you count them? How many values we have for n, and f? Each value is for each speed group, right? So you count the values. That means we have those many speed groups. How many values we have?
14.
14. So that means we have 14 speed groups. We have 14 speed groups. Degrees of freedom is always number of speed groups minus 3. Degrees of freedom is always number of speed groups minus 3. We have 14 speed groups. 14 minus 3, 11. Degrees of freedom is 11. Okay. So degrees of freedom is 11 and chi-square value is 11.6669. Okay. You come to this table. Go to the first column, find out which row you have to see. So 11 degrees of freedom, this one. Okay. You go along this row, you can see the values are increasing. The values are increasing. Okay. You come here, I have a value 10.34 and the next value is 13.7. 13.7. So 11.6669 is between them. Between these two values, I have my required chi-square value, right? Now 10.34, the probability is 0.5. 13.7, the probability is 0.25. I will do the interpolation to find out the exact value of the probability. How much is the probability as 11.6669? I'll do the interpolation between 10.34 and 13.7. Okay. So let me do the interpolation here. Okay, the technology is supposed to make our lives better, but I think in our case, it makes our life difficult, or at least my life difficult. Okay, I was trying to avoid writing the equations again, but no problem. Okay, so interpolation is x minus x1 divided by y minus y1. Okay, so x1 minus x2 divided by y1 minus y2. Okay, and x will be the probability which I'm trying to calculate, and y will be the chi-square value. So x is what I want to calculate. X1 is the probability for the first number, which is 0.5. The probability for 10.34. Okay, this should be y. Y is the required number which I have, 11.6669. Y1 is 10.34. X1 is 0.5. X2 is 0.25. Y1 is 10.34. And Y2 is 13.7. Okay, so give me the X value here. How much is the X value?
0.4.
0.4. Okay. Now, what is the rule here? Okay, first of all, let me write down the probability in the correct notation. Okay, so you know how to write out the notation for probability of chi-square. So you write it like this. Okay, this is how you write down the probability for chi-square value. Now, what is the rule here? What is the rule? The rule is, if this probability, the probability which you calculated for your chi-square value, if this value is less than 0.05, if this value is less than 0.05, your speed data has significant difference with normal distribution. In other words, it does not follow normal distribution. If the probability for the chi-square value is less than 0.05, it means your speed data has significant difference from the normal distribution. In other words, it does not follow normal distribution. Okay, let me say it the other way around as well. If the chi-square value has a probability of 0.05 or more, 0.05 or more, then there is not much significant difference between your data and normal distribution. In other words, it follows normal distribution. Okay, so like you see in this case, the probability of chi-square is more than 0.05. So I can say that there is not much significant difference between the speed data and normal distribution. So I can say speed data follows normal distribution. This particular speed data follows normal distribution. Okay. Any questions? Did you get this? Okay. Now what I will do here, I have an example. In this example, we will be repeating all the calculations which we have done in this chapter, in this topic. Okay, so I will be going through them quickly. I may ask you to calculate one or two simple values. Okay, so keep your calculators at hand. But I will not, obviously, if I start doing all the calculation, then we cannot complete it. Okay, so I will just, this is just a revision. It's just like a revision. This example is just like a revision of what you have done up till now. Okay. So for a rural highway, they collected spot speed data in uncongested flow condition, which is the main condition, right? That the flow should be uncongested. I gave you the value as well. It should be less than 500 vehicles per hour per lane. Okay. For collecting the spot speed data, this is the condition. It should be uncongested. Okay. So you can see the speed groups and you can see the number of vehicles in each group. Okay. Now for this group, for this data, they are giving certain things to be done. Okay. The first thing to be done is find out the frequency and cumulative frequency curve for this data. Find out the frequency and cumulative frequency curve for this data. Frequency comes from dividing the value of each group with the total number of values, right? So I need the total number of values. I already have the value for each group. Give me the total number of values here. How many total values we have? For how many vehicles we have collected the data? Capital N. How much is capital N here?
$169.
Yeah, 169. Okay, so moving on, then you calculate the frequency. Obviously, the first value is 0, so it doesn't change. 0 upon 169 will give you 0. Then the next one is 4. So 4 upon 169 will give you this one. Okay, then you do 9 upon 169, you will get this one, and so on. Okay, then cumulative frequency, the first one will remain 0. The second one will be summation of these two. The third one will be summation of the 3 values. Fourth one will be summation of the 4 values, and so on. Okay, so you keep on adding them, you will get cumulative frequency. Okay, then they are asking for the curves, frequency and cumulative frequency curves. So you come here, you plot the curves. The important thing is the selection of the axes. Frequency distribution curve, on the x-axis you have middle speed, on the y-axis you have frequency. X-axis middle speed, y-axis frequency. Okay, now you can see I have plotted the best fit curve. So the curve is not passing through all the points. This is an important point here. The curve will not pass through all the points. You are just trying to find out the best fit curve. Okay, and you can see the x-axis are starting from 20 because the least value I had was 20. So the example which they did, or which we did earlier, they started the x-axis from 0 as well. So it's not a big issue. The main thing is all the values are in the range of the axis. Okay, when you plot cumulative frequency, so on the y-axis I have cumulative frequency. On the x-axis will be the upper speed limit. Okay, so I keep on repeating it that you do not mix up the x-axis of the two graphs. On the first one you have middle speed for frequency curve, and we have upper speed for the cumulative frequency curve. In the second part, they are saying find out median, mode, pace, and percentage of vehicles in the pace. Okay, first of all, median. Which graph should I use to find out the median value? Tell me. Should I use the frequency distribution graph or cumulative frequency distribution graph? Which one should I use to find out the median?
The cumulative.
The cumulative. Okay, and median is basically the 50th percentile. So you come to this graph. Okay, cumulative frequency graph. Find out 50% from here. Come to the curve, drop a perpendicular, and you will find out the median. This is a median. Okay. Then for mode, which graph should I use for mode? Frequency or cumulative frequency? Frequency curve. Okay, and which value is the mode? In this graph, the cumulative frequency graph, the frequency graph, the highest one. Okay, the one which has the highest y value is your mode. So you go to the highest y value and drop the perpendicular on the x-axis. This is your mode. The speed value is your mode. Okay, not the value of y. Y is the frequency. We want the speed. Okay, mode is speed. Okay, so this is how you find out the mode. And for pace, we said pace is a 10 miles per hour range, which you find in the middle of the curve. And to find out the pace, you take a box or a paper or a scale which has the width equal to 10 miles per hour on the x-axis. So you see this distance from here to here is 10 miles per hour, and then you move this box, up and down until the box is touching the two parts of the curve. The two ends of the box are touching the two parts of the curve. So this is where they are touching it. So you find out the speed values here. These are your pace values. Okay, these are your pace values. Then we also need the percentage of vehicles in the pace range. percentage of vehicles in the pace range. Okay, this pace range is 37.5 and 47.5. This value is 37.5 and this value is 47.5. So the difference is 10. How do I find out the percentage of vehicles in the pace range? I will go to the cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so find out 37.5. So this is 37.5. Drop a perpendicular from 37.5 on the curve and find out the y value. So this is the cumulative frequency for 37.5. Then do the same thing with 47.5. So drop a perpendicular from here, come to the curve and find out the cumulative frequency. Okay. So for example, cumulative frequency for 37.5 is 21% and cumulative frequency for 47.5 is, let's say, 75. Okay. Now what should I do with these two values? I want to find out the percentage of drivers which are driving between 37.5 and 47.5. So cumulative value till 37.5 is 22 or 21 and cumulative value till 47.5 is 75, let's say. So what should I do with these two values to find out the percentage of drivers in this range? Should I add them together? Yeah, say.
Subtract.
You subtract them. Okay,
Yep.
you subtract them because cumulative means from 0 to that number. So from 0 to 37.5, I have 21% values. And from 0 to 47.5, I have 75% values. So between 37.5 and 47.5, you take the difference. Okay. So you can see the actual values here, 37.5, 47.5. It's a pace range. The actual value, cumulative frequency for 47.5 is 78 and cumulative value for 37.5 is 22%. And you take the difference, it is 56%. This range for the previous example was 61%. This range for the previous example was 61%. The percentage of drivers driving in the pace range for the previous example was 61%. This percentage is the measure of dispersion. Okay, so now you tell me which data is more dispersed. This one, the current one with 56% drivers in the pace range, or the previous one with 61% drivers in the pace range. Which one has more dispersion? 56% or 61%?
56%.
56% has more dispersion. Good. Because less percentage means more drivers are out of the central range. Pace in the center, right? So less percentage in the center means more out of the center. That means more dispersion. Okay. So dispersion is basically inversely proportional with this percentage. Okay. When you increase this percentage, the dispersion reduces. More drivers are in the central part. That means dispersion is less. Okay. Good answer. Okay, then we find out the mean and standard deviation for this data set. So you can see the equations for mean and standard deviation. In these equations, I need n, and I need n into s, and I need n into s square. So these two values I've already calculated here. Okay, n is the number of values in each group, which is this column, and s is the middle speed of each group, which is this column. Okay, so s is basically the midpoint of these two values, right? The midpoint of these two values. Okay, so n into s, the first value is obviously n is 0, so the first values will be 0. Second one, 4 into 22.5 will give you 90, and 4 into 22.5 square will give you 2025. Okay, n you already calculated 169 total number of values. Okay, summation of this column basically. Okay. X bar, whatever you will calculate from here. Okay, so give me summation of ns and summation of ns square. So summation of these two columns basically. Give me these values.
$7,107.5 NS.
Okay, okay. 7107.5. Okay. And summation of n is square.
Two four 241730.25.
241730.25. Okay. Okay, so now you can calculate. First of all, you have to calculate mean because you need x bar here. Okay, so you calculate the mean, it comes out to be 42.05. Then you calculate standard deviation, it comes out to be 8.12. Okay. Then 95%, 99.7% confidence interval. Okay, so for calculating confidence interval, I need the E value. Okay, E is n upon root of n, sorry. This is S upon root of n. Okay, I have it. So S upon root of n. So S is how much? 8.12. Okay, 8.12, and this one is 169. Okay, so when you calculate it, it comes up to be 0.624. Okay, x bar we already know, 42.05, and these are the confidence intervals. This is the expression for confidence interval. This one, the first one is for 95%, the second one is for 99.7%. Okay, so you calculate them, these two values, they come out to be these. Okay, it's simple calculation. I think you shouldn't have any problems with it. We already done it for the previous example as well. Then they are saying, based on the results of this study, they want to do another study at the same location with a tolerance level of 0.8 miles per hour and 95% confidence interval. How many samples they should collect? What sample size is required? Okay, so this is the equation for sample size if your confidence interval is 95%. So you see 3.84 here. This is the constant which we use when the confidence interval is 95%. S, which we already calculated, 8 point something, right? For the data. Okay, they are saying use the results of this study. So I'll use the standard deviation of this study. E is the tolerance level, 0.8. Okay, so number of samples come out to be 394. You need 394 to achieve a tolerance level of 0.8 miles per hour and confidence interval of 95%. Okay, and then this is the chi-square test. So you can see the values are in descending order. The first value, upper limit infinity, last value, lower limit minus infinity, and you can see the zero groups are gone now. So the first z value is infinity because I don't need to do anything. For second one, I will do 55 minus mean upon standard deviation. I've already calculated mean and standard deviation. Okay, so I will just use the upper limits and do mean minus standard deviation. Value minus mean upon standard deviation to get the z value. Then you go to the z table, find out the cumulative probability. For infinity, it will be 1. For other values, you will find it. And when you have negative values, I told you, find out the probability for the positive number, and then you do 1 minus that probability to give this number, to get this number. Okay, so you get the probability of 0.254, and then 1 minus that probability will give you the probability of minus 0.254, and so on. Then you need the probability of each group, so you do the subtraction. Okay, so you take the difference of these two values, you get this one, take the difference of these two values, you get this one, and so on, and you can see last value repeated. There's nothing to take the difference with. Then you take the probability of each group, multiply with the number of values, which was 169. So you take each value and multiply by 169. This column will be multiplied by 169 to get the F values. Okay, and then you have the check that the F value should be what? What was the check? F value should be how much? Minimum?
More than 5?
Yeah, minimum 5. 5 is enough. If you have 5, it's enough. Okay, so 5 or more. Okay, so minimum is 5. So you can see in this table, in this column, the last value is less than 5. The last value is less than 5. So I have to merge it. There's no group after it, so I will merge it with this group. So you merge them together. The final merged f value is this one, and then you have to merge the n values as well. So 9 plus 4 will give you 13. This is a merged n value. Okay. Then you calculate the chi-square for each group. So you will do n minus f square upon f for each group, n minus f square, 9 minus 9.5992 square upon 9.59992. So you get the chi-square for each group, and then you do the summation of all the groups. The total chi-square is 1.57. Total chi-square, which is summation of chi-square for each group, is 1.57. Then you go to the chi-square table. Before going to the chi-square table, I must know the degrees of freedom. I must know the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom was what? How do I know the degrees of freedom? How do I calculate the degrees of freedom?
The number of the combined n
minus 3.
minus 3.
Yeah. The number of combined speed groups minus 3. So if you count them, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 speed groups minus 3, 4. So degrees of freedom is 4. Okay. You come here, chi-square table. Okay. So you go to the row where you have 4 degrees of freedom. Okay. Your chi-square value is 1.57. So you come here, you see this is 1.064, this is 1.923. Okay, so 1.57 is between them, right? 1.57 is between them. For this value, the probability is 0.9. For this value, the probability is 0.75. Again, you should do the interpolation, right? To find out the value exactly at 1.57, you should do the interpolation, and then you check whether it is more than 0.05 or not. But I will tell you a trick. The trick is, if you are interpolating between two values and both probabilities are more than 0.05, you are interpolating between two probabilities and both probabilities are more than 0.05. So obviously the answer will be more than 0.05. So even without interpolation, I know that 1.57 has a probability of more than 0.05 without interpolation, because it is somewhere between probability of 0.9 and probability of 0.75. So even if I interpolate, I will get probability of more than 0.75. So 0.75 obviously is more than 0.05. So if you are interpolating between two values and both values are more than your required value, then answer obviously will be more than your required value. So in this case, without interpolation, I can tell you that the probability of chi-square value is more than 0.05, which means what? It means that there is not much significant difference between my data and normal distribution. So I can say my speed data follows normal distribution. My speed data follows normal distribution. Okay, one more thing, last point. I told you earlier that you should select the range of speed groups so that you have at least 6 or 7 speed groups, and this is the reason. So you see, if you want to perform a chi-square test, let's say on your data, and you made only 3 groups, so you calculate degrees of freedom. 3 minus 3 will give you 0, so you will not have any degrees of freedom, right? So that's why I told you you can make at least 6 or 7 groups in the speed data, so that if you have to do merging for 1 or 2 groups and then you do -3 as well, so at least you will have 1 or 2 degrees of freedom, so you can calculate the chi-square value. Okay, so that's why I told you select the range of the speed group so that in the end you have like 6 or 7 speed groups. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask me, otherwise I will go for the attendance. Any questions?